Welcome again to Writing 101 and Feb 14th. Hope that everybody is having a good day so far. And I want to cover something about writing. And I spent some time thinking about this. And this is a framework I wanted you to start thinking about. That is that writing is not just words on a page. Writing is more holistic than that. And I want you to start thinking about what writing really means. Personally, I think it's the most powerful way to shape the world. If you think about buildspace, at the end of the day, for the longest time, we were really just people who put words into email, words in a tweet, and then words into a video, right? And you're literally inviting people into your mind, your stories, and your view of the world. I'm telling you this because I get a sense from most of you that you're actually creators at heart, even though you're building different things. So, anybody seen this particular phrase? Yeah. If you know about this, don't tell the rest, right? Okay. Those of you who don't know, what comes to your mind when you see just one sentence? I'm glad my mom died.
Psychopath.
Psychopath? Stupid?
Maybe the mom was abusive.
Maybe the mom was abusive. What else?
Resilience.
Resilience. What are some emotions that go through your head?
Sadistic.
So when I see this, actually one of the emotions that run through me is less of a judgment, more of a, that's really sad actually. And I'm showing you this because immediately you're like invited, you're actually completely consumed by this one sentence, right? But I want to show you something more. Don't ever separate visuals from writing. It's part of a greater whole. So this can have a psychopathic tone, can have a very sad tone. But if you pair it with it's actually the title of a book, I'm glad my mom died. So suddenly like the color palette and this picture makes it funny, right? So it's like no longer just something that is sad or psychopathic. You think it's still psychopathic?
I just don't understand the contrast there. Like,
What
why
do you
is it? The title by itself is sad, has negative tones, but then this is bright, and I still don't associate the entire whole as something like bright. It's just still weird.
Yeah. So this particular book actually blew up, and it's meant to be a comedy, but it's actually about she's actually an actress. And kind of talks about her mom in a comedic way, but actually the meat of the story is rather sad. So I talked to quite a few of you, and I know that many of you want to know how to, this is the biggest one, write a good hook, tell a story, write a cold email, better landing page copy. The list goes on and on and on. And if you recall, Staven had a mental model that was a baby bolt. Looking at some of the stuff that you guys have posted and written, I think it's better if we just kind of look at the overall process first. I think it all starts with knowing what good writing is. If you recall from the design lecture, good design is, actually, what's good design according to Staven? You guys remember?
Usable, useful, and beautiful.
Yeah. There's something similar to writing. It needs to be clear, meaningful, and persuasive. And we'll get to what each of these mean and how we will do that. So clear. This is something that I see a lot. If people don't even understand what you're trying to say, they won't even care. And the worst case scenario is that you put something out into the world, people can't even say yes, and they can't even say no. So they just scroll right past, right? Or they don't even read it. So here's a tweet, and I'm using a lot of examples, and I don't actually want to show who did them. This is not from SF2, this is from online. And if you want to look at really bad writing examples, oftentimes you could just look at crypto Web3 type stuff. So if you do a quick scan, like, what is this tweet about? Anybody tell me?
It's really small. It's shilling.
Oh, I see.
Coin.
Yeah, it's like very hard to tell exactly what's going on, right? So chances are you're just gonna scroll past. interestingly, this account is actually rather big. So you need to have people understand you first. And the second thing is, I say meaningful because I want you to communicate something of value. And the value actually can come in all kinds of forms. For a lot of you building SaaS, it could be saving time, saving money. And for some of you content creators, making them laugh. That to me is like the pinnacle offering somebody value because laughter can transcend many things and or interesting information, etc., etc., etc. So I'll give you an example. This is a very popular example of a cold email that somebody sent to Sean Puri. Let's just take a moment to break this down, right? I made an irreversible decision. So this particular email is because Sean Puri was kind of looking for people to hire, right? So let's just look at this. Hey, Sean, I made an irreversible decision. Just 30 days in, I quit some job. The opportunity cost of not being full-time in crypto was too high, right? Lucky for you, this means that I'm on the market. I think you should hire me. And you don't even have to read the rest. He already bolded what you should read. I quit this job. I think you should hire me. I love to run NFT experiments for Milk Road, right? So already it's like, when Sean got this to him, it was very meaningful. It's also understandable what this person wants, right? And before I get to this last bolded part, I want to talk about persuasive. If you recall from the marketing lecture, we kind of talk about marketing ultimately is you want somebody to take action. It could either to buy your thing, sign up for a subscription, or adopt your point of view. And what I mean by adopt point of view is that you're convincing somebody that what you're offering is of value, or you're convincing somebody that your point of view is actually like the right way. If you look at buildspace, right, the 2424 lecture, sorry, not lecture, the live stream, we spent a lot of time telling the audience our view of education, how we could do it better, right? So if you come back to this example, it's very persuasive for Sean to at least talk to him, right? Because he ends with, I got 2 ideas, one for Milk Road, one for MFM, want to hear them. So it makes the reader's life really easy. It's a yes or no, right? So I want to break down how we start from all of them. Any questions so far? Cool. So I was looking at a lot of examples. I think the most important thing you need to start is work backwards from intent. What do you want to say to people? I think that's actually a really difficult thing that I have seen in a lot of the examples, is that it's very unclear what is it that you actually want to say to people. And even our own content team, we oftentimes struggle with this. And this is what I like to think about a lot. Keep shooting and figure out your target. Now, this is actually really important. You need to keep on posting because this is the only way you can get feedback, whether or not you are finding the right target, or even if that's a target that you want. And think of this as a process. And the most important thing is how many of you like write on a regular basis during SF2? Not for your stuff, like you write for yourself. Yeah, quite a few of you. I highly recommend that if you're not doing that, take some time to do it. Our entire team spend time writing about all sorts of stuff so that we can actually wrap our heads around what we're trying to build. So let me give you an example. We went off grid for basically a month and we're figuring out what to build. But the forcing function that's really good for us is anytime we're coming up with something new, we immediately think about how will we communicate this to our audience? How will we communicate this to the world? And it's oftentimes a messy process, but it's something that you can just iterate even within yourselves. So this is from my app, Ulysses. Farza and I, we started jamming about what's a message we can send to our audience, right? So if you look at this, there are 4 versions of this. Actually, it ended up being like 6 to 10 versions of just all these different drafts. You can see the title, we shut down our company for a month. I became a monk for a month. I I don't know how many of you read buildspace emails, but eventually the landing title would always change. How many of you read this or received this? Yeah. So this was one version of our message, right? And we really thought about our intent. Our intent was, one, we want to tell people that we're doing something different this year. Two, we want to tell people that we have the same mission, right? To build a world where anyone with an idea can turn it reality. And then the third thing is there are different segments of our audience. We need to address questions, right? So this one would be wins, nights, and weekends, S5. And those of you that hit this email is probably because you're in S4. Actually, all of you are in S4. That's why I got the email. And then this is another iteration of the same message, right? This one is more personal to Farza. Most of you are probably familiar with founder stories plus cliches. Steve Jobs finding himself in India while doing LSD. Phil Knight traveling the world before coming up with Nike. But this message again is all tying back to like our intent. And our intent is to be clear about what we're doing next and also provide something meaningful. And then lastly, persuade them to come to 2424. How many of you read this? You can go check it out. It's buildspace.so/hyper. It's a very long read. If you really want to understand where our head is at, this is actually a pretty good read. Again, same message, but now in a 10-minute format, right? You guys all know that we're building software now. So for a month, the whole team would jam about different ideas. I would jam about all of the ideas, and then I made it down to a pitch deck to myself. Again, I need to first figure out what the hell am I trying to say to the audience, right? So to me, I was like, okay, how do people connect with each other? So I started breaking down to myself, their ancient forms of connection, modern forms of connection, contemporary forms of connection. How can buildspace elaborate or build upon that? Now, all of this building into a grander narrative, even things like this. We'll kind of talk about this deeper. This is the map for the entire live stream. And Josh and I are thinking about, there are different moments that a person experiences in a 1 hour live stream or even a 1 hour film. When is the audience happy? I put a smiley face. When are they dipping down? I'll say, when they figure out S5 is going to be delayed, they're going to be sad as fuck. We got to bring them back up, make them happy. So we really have to communicate why S5 is delayed, right? So working backwards from intent is probably one of the most important things. That's going to start to make everything else really easy. But figuring out intent is actually very difficult.